commence this service this morning by acknowledging the people of the Wurundjeri Nation. We acknowledge these traditional owners of the land and we gather on this morning. And we recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, culture. We pay respect to elders, past, present and emerging. It's my pleasure now to welcome distinguished guests, sub-branch members, veterans, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the Oakleigh-Carnegie RSL 2021 Anzac Commemoration Service. Could I ask also that if you have a mobile phone, please switch it off or switch it to silent. In particular, I'd like to welcome Ms Claire O'Neill, Federal Member for Hotham, Mr Steve Demopoulos, State Member for Oakleigh, Mr David Davis, State Member for Southern Metropolitan Region, Councillor Stuart James, Monash Council, Mayor Margaret Esikoff, Councillor Tony Athanopoulos and Councillor Neil Pilling of Glen Ira Council, Sergeant Rod Johnson and Senior Sergeant Mark Rogers, Oakleigh Police. I also acknowledge and thank the many organisations, schools and businesses who are with us today. All of you have participated in our Anzac commemoration services for many years and assist us in our work to remain an integral part of the Return Services Network and our local community. Thank you to the Rotary Club of Oakleigh, Clayton Huntingdale Incorporated, Bunnings Oakleigh, Sacred Heart Girls College, Sacred Heart Primary School, Oakleigh Grammar, South Oakleigh Girl Guides, the Warringah Scout Group, Oakleigh Cricket Club, Oakleigh Football Club, past players, Monash Historical and the Lemnos Gallipoli Commemorative Committee. I also would like to acknowledge those who are not able to attend today but have sent their apology. Mr Clifford Hayes, State Member for Southern Metropolitan Region, and Mr Ted Young, Tennis Above Senior Service and Life Member of Oakleigh-Carnegie RSL. He is today being collected by RSL Vic to participate in the City Anzac services. And we are very pleased that the RSL Vic are providing him with the ability to attend the service as a World War II veteran. "106 years ago, on the 25th of April 1915, Australia and New Zealand soldiers, as part of the Allied forces, landed on Gallipoli. The objective was to capture the Gallipoli Peninsula in order to open the Dardanelles to the Allied navies. The ultimate objective was to capture Constantinople, now Istanbul, in Turkey, the capital of the Ottoman Empire and an ally of Germany. Those Australian and New Zealand soldiers met fierce resistance from the Ottoman Turkish defenders. It was a day of confusion and fear, and on that day, the 25th of April 1915, some 2,000 Australian soldiers were killed or wounded. For the next 8 months, the campaign was a stalemate. At the end of 1915, the Allied forces were evacuated after both sides had suffered heavy casualties and endured great hardship. Over 8,000 Australian soldiers and almost 2,700 New Zealanders had been killed. News of the landing on Gallipoli had a profound impact on Australians at home, and on the 25th of April soon became the day of which Australians remembered the sacrifice of all who had served, and particularly those who did not return home. Although the Gallipoli campaign failed in its military objectives, the Australian and New Zealand actions during the campaign left us all a powerful legacy: the creation of what became known as the Anzac legend. Today, Anzac Day goes beyond the anniversary of the landing on Gallipoli in 1915. It is the day we remember and honour all men and women who've worn our country's uniform in service. We recognise and honour more than 100,000 Australian servicemen and women who've lost their lives in military operations carried out in our country's name. We recognise and honour all our servicemen and women who have served in all wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations. Importantly, we remember and reflect upon the spirit of Anzac with its human qualities of courage, endurance, loyalty and selflessness, qualities which continue to have a meaning and relevance for our sense of national identity. We honour their service by living a good life in support of others, respecting the freedoms given us and inspiring others to build a better Australia and a stronger Anzac spirit. We should always strive to be worthy of the sacrifices made for us. As you entered the Memorial Hall, you passed our Great War Roll of Honour, placed in our foyer when this building was opened in 1922. Every time we enter the building, and especially today, we remember and honour our local men and women who served in the First World War. As we know that behind every name on the honour roll and on every memorial, large or small, across the nation, there is a story of courage, and for every name, there is another story, a story of loss, of family, of friends, of those left behind. That's why we pause here in our RSL each day at 6 p.m, dim the lights for stand 2 for the Ode, to remember all men and women who have served and continue to serve our great country. And it's a great honour to have with us today the family of a man, the late Vernon Wimpey, and a long-time member of this club who recorded our stand 2 and reminds us to take a moment to remember our fallen and never forget. We retain and nurture the strong community links, many forged by men and women from our community, many who returned and some who did not return from World War I. We recognise, we are very aware that to continue to honour those who have gone before us, we must continue their legacy of support and care for those who have continued to serve, and for so many who now find their transition from active service extremely difficult. The spirit of Anzac is as relevant today as it was in all those years ago. We need to be vigilant to our society remains the values of freedom and tolerance and a fair go for all. We need to maintain their sense of commitment, courage, perseverance, and we need to look after each other as the Anzacs did, with humanity and compassion. We will remember the Australian and New Zealand men and women who shaped the legacy and the spirit of Anzac, and we continue their legacy and spirit, lest we forget. The poppy and rosemary are strongly linked to our commemorative services. Rosemary for remembrance and the red poppy, as they were the first plants to grow on the French and Belgian battlefields following the devastation caused by World War I. It's now my pleasure to introduce Elise Pretty from Sacred Heart Girls' College, who will recite the poem In Flanders Field. A poem written by John McRae, a brigade doctor in May 1915. Elise?
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
I'd now like to invite those with wreaths to come forward and lay them at the front of the stage. Ms. Claire O'Neill, Federal Member for Hotham. Mr. Steve Demopoulos, State Member for Oakleigh. I'll call you out, just take your time. Mr. David Davis, State Member for Southern Metropolitan Region. Councillor James Stewart, Monash Council. Mayor Margaret Esikoff, Glen Ira Council. Oakleigh-Carnegie Sub-Branch, Mr. Mark Dayton. Mr. Doug Bowden, Rotary Club of Oakleigh, Clayton, Huntingdale. Sergeant Rod Johnson, Senior Sergeant Mark Rogers, Oakleigh Police. Mr. Lee Talamas, President of the Lemnos Gallipoli Commemorative Committee. Helen Gobby, President, and Anne Neal, Secretary, Monash Historical. Mr. Lindsay Adams, RAOB. Mr. Peter Webb, President, Oakleigh Cricket Club. Miss Yuli Pantaliva, the Australian Great War Association. Sacred Heart Girls College, Oakleigh. Oakleigh Grammar School. Sacred Heart Primary School, Ian Westman and Paul Ansell, representing the Oakleigh Football Club past players. Bunnings, Oakleigh. The South Oakleigh Girl Guides. Warringah Scout Group. Oakleigh Brass. Imogen Williams, Moorabbin Pipe Band. Jim Saisanis, President of the Panagaloki Brotherhood, in recognition of the 80th anniversary of the Greek campaign commencing in 1941. Rula Saisanis from the Agios Dimitrios League. Narelle Rusk. Narelle will lay a wreath in memory of her late brother, Stuart Burney, who passed away recently. Stuart served from March 1944 to October 2011 and saw service in East Timor, Afghanistan and with NATO. If there's any other person who has a wreath to lay, please do so now. The poem for the Fallen was composed by Lawrence Bignon. It was written in September 1914, just a few weeks after the outbreak of World War I. The third and fourth stanza are particularly relevant to Anzac commemorations, with the fourth stanza being very familiar as is what we know as the Ode. The reading will be followed by the playing of the last post, a minute's silence, and then reveille. If you're able to stand, please do so now. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eye, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end, against odds uncounted. They fell with faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as with the left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
Present arms.
Lest
Salute arms.
we forget. If you're able to remain standing, please do so. We will now play the national anthems of Australia and New Zealand. At the conclusion of these anthems, the catafalque party will be dismissed.
Catapult Guard, General Salute, present arms.
Please be seated.
Salute. Arms.
Guard Commander, dismount the guard.
Catapult guard. Dismiss.
Flag bearers, remove the flags. Thank you all for attending the Anzac service this morning. A particular thank you to Elise Pretty for reciting the poem in Flanders Field. To Zoe Keefe, Principal Cornet Player, Oakleigh Brass. To the Australian Great War Association for their participation. To Simon Blackshaw from the Moorabbin Pipe Band. To Monash City Council for their assistance with live streaming of our service today. To our flag bearers, Neil Smith and David Thompson, and to Oakleigh-Carnegie RSL sub-branch and the members for their help in setting up and assisting with this service. We are grateful to obtain major sponsorship for our Anzac events from the Rotary Clubs of, Club of Oakleigh, Clayton and Huntingdale, and I convey to the President and members of the Rotary Club our deep appreciation of their generosity. Their generosity enables us to dedicate any funds raised today through donations to our Welfare Patriotic Fund, which helps us to assist our veterans, their families and their carers. We live in unusual times. I thank you all for ensuring that we can conduct our commemorative today in accordance with COVID-safe public events criteria. We all, and I'm sure, hope that as we enter into the latter part of this year, and particularly 2022, we can once again honour and remember our servicemen and women in the manner in which we have done previously. In 2020, we'll also mark a very important milestone for this RSL. We'll acknowledge and celebrate the centenary of this building, which was opened in April 1922. And we certainly hope that by that time we'll be able to participate in a full day of commemoration, starting with the dawn service and other events here at the club. I thank you all for your attendance here today. I think it's been a difficult time with the COVID, but it's been a wonderful day to present it here today. So thank you all for coming. Light refreshments will now be available. Again, thank you for attending our Anzac service, lest we forget.